Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I had believed stability was built, not borrowed. My name is Connor, and for 4 years I had shared a home with Michelle. Our days followed a simple rhythm: work, dinner, late-night talks, Sunday mornings on the couch. She used to laugh easily, touch my arm when speaking, ask how my shift went. That version felt real. Then the quiet changes began. Michelle started coming home later. New clothes appeared in the closet, sharper, brighter, meant to be seen. Invitations filled her calendar, always marked as events. My name was never included. When I asked, she smiled without warmth. "This is about my future, Connor. You don't see the bigger picture," she said one night, dropping her purse on the counter. "I see you're not here," I replied. She paused, then shrugged. "You worry too much." Another name began to surface: Brandon Carter. According to her, he was a powerful investor who noticed potential. I had never met him. She spoke of him often, always with admiration, always holding her phone in her hand while doing it. One evening, my best friend Nathan Pierce came over. He had been in my life since college, always reliable, always honest. He watched Michelle move around the kitchen like a stranger. "You look busy these days," Nathan said. "I am," she replied. "Growth doesn't wait." He nodded, impressed. "That's ambition." Something flickered between them. A glance, then avoidance. I caught it, stayed silent. Later, when we were alone, I asked her, "Is there something you want to tell me?" "No," she answered quickly. "You're imagining things." Her phone buzzed on the table. She turned it face down. In that moment, a simple thought settled in. Nothing around me was simple anymore. I stayed quiet after that. I stopped asking. I started watching. After that night, small habits became signals. Michelle no longer left her phone on the counter. It stayed in her pocket. When it rang, she stepped outside. When a message appeared, she tilted the screen away. Our home filled with pauses where answers should have been. One afternoon, she walked in carrying her laptop and dropped it on the table. "It won't start," she said. "I've got files I need to finish. Can I use your computer for a while?" "Sure," I replied. "I'll set up a clean profile for you." She smiled, relieved. "You're the best." I created a separate space for her work and turned on automatic backups. Nothing fancy, just a record of what passed through the machine. I told myself it was for safety, not suspicion. Deep down, I already knew otherwise. That night, while she typed in the other room, I watched files appear in the backup folder. First, there were messages from Nathan. "I can't wait much longer. This is killing me. Friday needs to happen soon." Then came another thread. The name hit harder. "Brandon Carter. You looked incredible last weekend. The transfer is done. Pick something nice. A few more weeks, and you won't need anyone else." My jaw tightened. I scrolled further. Michelle replied, "Nathan is the real choice. You're temporary, but I appreciate the help." The implication was clear. She wasn't just cheating. She was managing people like tools. Brandon for advantage, Nathan for the future image. Me as the locked door she planned to walk away from publicly. Later that night, she climbed into bed as if nothing had happened. "You're quiet," she said. "Long day," I answered. Her hand brushed my chest. "Get some rest. Big weekend ahead for me." "What's happening this weekend?" I asked. She turned away. "Training. Out of town." I stared at the ceiling for a long time after that. Training, lies, preparation. Whatever was coming, she was already several steps ahead in her mind. She just didn't realize I had started moving too. Nathan called me on Monday afternoon. "Friday, dinner. Just the three of us at first," he said. "I've got news I want to share in person." "What kind of news?" I asked. "Good kind," he replied, voice tight but excited. "Something big. Something that changes things." I agreed without hesitation. My answer surprised even me. "That place on Harbor Street?" he added. 7 o'clock. "Fine," I said. "Send the address." I ended the call and opened the folder I had been building in silence. More messages had backed up while Michelle worked in the other room. I read through them slowly, carefully. "He won't see it coming. He always thinks I'm loyal," she replied. "After tonight, we won't have to hide." Then there was her note saved in drafts, like a small speech written for herself. Sometimes love changes direction. Sometimes the best choice is the hardest one. And sometimes the person standing beside you every day isn't the one meant to walk the rest of the road with you. She had even titled the note, Dinner Words. Michelle stood behind me before I heard her. "What are you looking at?" she asked. "Work," I replied, clicking the window shut. She leaned against the desk. "Nathan called you, didn't he?" "Yes." Her eyes held mine. "And?" "And he invited us to dinner." A soft smile touched her lips. "That's nice of him." "You seem very calm about it." She shrugged. "Why wouldn't I be? There's a lot going on between you and him lately." "Don't start," she said. "You're reading into nothing again." "I didn't accuse you," I answered. "But you're about to." I stood. "We'll go. We'll hear his big news. We'll see what happens." She nodded once, satisfied. "I'm glad you're finally being mature." That night, she moved through the house with light steps. I watched from the doorway, studying a woman I once believed I knew. While she slept, I began planning. Not drama, not shouting, just control. If she wanted a moment that would define our future, I was going to make sure the truth stood in the center of it. Michelle said the trip was for training. She packed light and left early. I waited 10 minutes, then checked the email address I'd already traced through the computer. A reservation confirmation sat there, clear and obvious. The location was not a conference center. It was a private lodge 2 hours away, booked under Brandon Carter's name. I drove there before doubt could slow me down. The place sat far from the road, hidden behind tall trees and a long gate. I parked across the street and waited. After a few minutes, a dark car rolled in. Brandon stepped out first. Then Michelle followed. She laughed at something he said. His hand touched her back. She didn't pull away. He handed her a small box. She opened it and smiled. Then they kissed, slow and careless, as if nothing else in the world mattered. I lifted my phone and took one photo only. It caught her face, his arm, the gate in the background, and the expensive watch he always wore. One clean, undeniable image. No drama, just truth. They walked inside and the door closed behind them. I stayed a moment longer, letting the sight settle in my mind. My hands were steady, my breathing controlled. Anger never arrived. On the drive back, I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't call anyone. I replayed the scene once, then locked it away. When I reached home, the house felt different. Light, empty, clear. I saved the image in 3 places. I labeled it simply Friday. Later that evening, Michelle called. "Training was exhausting," she said. "I'm going to sleep early." "All right," I replied. "Drive safe tomorrow." "I will. I love you." "Good night, Michelle." I ended the call and stood in the center of the living room. Nothing inside me had cracked. Nothing had broken. She thought the weekend belonged to her. In reality, it had just handed me everything I needed. I moved through the following days with careful precision. I spoke less, listened more. Michelle assumed the silence meant peace. It meant planning. On Tuesday, I opened a new account at a different bank. My savings moved in a single transfer. Only a small amount remained in the joint funds, just enough to look normal. On Wednesday, I sat with a lawyer. I showed him the photo, the messages, the timeline. He nodded once and guided me through the simple steps that protected what was mine. Thursday was for the house. I worked while Michelle was out. Every item that belonged to her went into boxes: clothes, shoes, framed pictures, gifts, small keepsakes. Nothing was damaged. Nothing was rushed. By evening, I had loaded them into my car and driven to a storage unit across town. I paid a month in cash. When I returned home, her side of the bedroom was bare. The space she once occupied looked like it never belonged to anyone. Michelle called that night. "Staying at my friend's place. I'll be at dinner tomorrow," she said. "Okay," I replied. "You sound strange." "I'm just tired." "Don't be distant, Connor. This week means a lot to me." "I understand that completely." A pause followed. Then she softened her voice. "After tomorrow, things will be different. Better. You'll see." "I'm sure I will." She hung up, satisfied, already living in an ending she had written without my input. I walked through the quiet rooms and studied the clean walls. I poured a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table. The photograph rested beside my phone, hidden from sight, but never from reach. Everything was in place. They thought Friday was their moment. They had no idea it already belonged to me. Friday arrived without ceremony. We met Nathan at the restaurant entrance. He looked nervous, straightening his jacket, adjusting his watch. When he saw Michelle, his face softened in a way that used to belong to me. "Thank you for coming," he said. "This night matters." "It better," Michelle replied with a light laugh. We were led to a round table near the center of the room. Friends from our small circle began to arrive. The conversation stayed polite, strained. A quiet tension built, thick and waiting. Halfway through the meal, Michelle stood. "I need everyone's attention for a moment," she said. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Nathan watched her like a man waiting for permission to breathe. "I know this may come as a surprise," Michelle continued, "but I'm engaged to Connor's best friend. We've been seeing each other for months, and tonight he asked me to be his wife." A slow gasp moved around the table. All eyes shifted to me. I leaned back, calm. I unlocked my phone, selected the image I had taken, and tapped Nathan's name. His phone buzzed. He frowned, irritated at first, then looked down. His expression changed. The color drained from his face. He raised his head slowly. "What is this?" he asked, holding the screen up. "This was last weekend." Michelle's smile vanished. "You said you were visiting your cousin," he went on. "You said you were alone." Before she could answer, the restaurant door opened. A woman stepped in. I had seen her in tagged photos online. It was Rania. She spotted Brandon's watch in the picture on Nathan's phone and froze. "That's my boyfriend," she said quietly. The room went dead silent. Michelle tried to speak. No words came. Nathan slipped the ring from his pocket and set it on the table. It made a dull, final sound. "I'm done," he said, backing away. "I hope the rest of your evening is honest," I said to Michelle. Then I walked out. Chaos followed that night. None of it touched me directly, but the effects echoed through mutual contacts and late-night messages I never answered. Rania did not leave quietly. Within hours, she shared details across her network, connecting images, times, names. Brandon vanished from public view, phone disconnected, accounts locked. His silence was louder than defense. Connections he once praised quickly dissolved. Michelle tried to regain control. She called former colleagues, old friends, distant cousins. Few responded. Those who did listened once, then stepped back. The story had already shaped itself without her guidance. Nathan sent me one final message. "I was wrong. I trusted her. I misjudged you." I didn't reply. Michelle arrived at my door 2 days later. Her appearance was unrecognizable. No makeup, no polished voice, just raw anger covering panic. "You planned everything," she said through the door. "You destroyed me on purpose." "You destroyed yourself," I replied through the speaker. "Your things are not here anymore." Where am I supposed to go? That stopped being my responsibility Friday night. Her parents called that evening. Their tone carried both shame and exhaustion. "We received the storage key," her father said. "Michelle came home early this morning. We know enough now. She will not return to your house." Days passed. Her name faded from conversations. Invitations stopped. Photographs disappeared. The world she built from borrowed lies collapsed into quiet corners. A week later, a formal letter arrived. Claims, accusations, demands. My lawyer handled it in one precise reply. Evidence attached. Timelines displayed. Names listed. The threat of witnesses sealed it. Another envelope never came. Michelle messaged once more, from an unknown number. "You were supposed to forgive me. You were supposed to fight for me." I deleted it. She had mistaken control for power. I had simply removed both. 6 months passed without noise. My home settled into a new kind of order. Mornings came without arguments. Evenings held no explanations. The space that once felt crowded with tension now carried only air and calm. I kept my routine simple. Work, training, reading at night. The same couch, the same windows, a different atmosphere. Peace did not arrive dramatically. It arrived quietly, like light entering a room after curtains were opened. News still reached me, even when I did not ask for it. Michelle moved into her parents' basement bedroom. The expensive life she had chased vanished in days. She took a low-level position at a small office across town. No parties, no invitations, no second chances. People remembered her for one thing only, and that memory followed her wherever she went. Nathan transferred to another city. He erased his past the way people erase mistakes they cannot fix. One afternoon, I found an old photo tucked inside a book on my shelf. It showed Michelle and me at a beach years ago, smiling at something I no longer remembered. I looked at it for a long moment. There was no anger. There was no sadness. Only distance. I placed it in the trash. I didn't feel like I had won a battle. I felt like I had stepped out of a story that no longer belonged to me. She had tried to define my ending at a dinner table, surrounded by people who believed the version she sold. She imagined me as the quiet man who would accept it, break quietly, disappear. Instead, I stayed steady. I watched. I prepared. I spoke only when truth mattered. She announced a future that was never real. I simply made sure mine still was. Thank you for watching.